We'll call the Strathcona Gardens Commission meeting of Wednesday, July 22nd to order. We have confirmation of a quorum.
Move adoption of agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, anyone opposed? Again, I would ask if you are not speaking to please mute your microphone to stop the feedback. Thank you. Seeing that being carried, we will move on to adoption of the previous minutes of June 10th.
Move the minutes. Second.
Any discussion? Call a question. Anyone opposed? That is carried. Any business arising from the minutes? I have one question, Mr. Leach or Ms. Garak. Is there anything further regarding the jersey donation?
There is. We were going to put it on the agenda, but we thought best not. But yeah, no, we do have good news. There was an appraisal done by it. I think the appraisal came in at $67,000 or something. The commission had given us advice to pay for that. I think it was only a couple $100, so we'll pay for that. And we will provide the individual with a tax receipt for that amount as soon as he signs a little contractual agreement with us that he gives us the jersey and we give him the receipt. And if he has a future fight with Revenue Canada over the value, that's between him and Revenue Canada. So it looks like we have conclusion to that. There was a small amount of money to, I think, for a frame that he had put together. But I think we should have possession of that fairly soon.
Excellent. I think you can just put that on the next Strathcona Gardens Commission for confirmation and update.
Good thing he didn't, Rod Brindabor didn't play for the Edmonton Eskimos. We'd be screwed there.
All right. Moving on to Chair's report. I have none as I'm losing my voice from the amount of meetings today. So we'll go to Strathcona Gardens Recreate Project.
Move receipt. Second.
And any discussion on receipts?
Yeah, we have a short presentation, Mr. Chair, and I'll let Wolf walk through that, but just a little background on it. So the Community Culture Recreation Program that we initially applied for, we know we didn't get funding for that. We got some feedback from the province, and quickly they have come out with round 2 of that program. So what we have done is we've repackaged something up for the commission to look at, and we've incorporated what we believe is comments from the province that will help our chances of success, and put a recommendation package forward for the commission to hopefully endorse and make a second round application on that. So as I said, Wolf's got a presentation. I'll let him do that. It seems that I'm the source of feedback here, so I'll mute and let Wolf go through that. If Edith, you can pull it up and share your screen.
So good afternoon, and thank you so much for the opportunity to let me speak about the report that we developed, and as well the slides that I have in front of me. If you could please confirm that you're looking at the slide that I have in front of the potential scope of work. Perfect, thank you so much. So a little bit of history about the project, and I'm just going to try to be brief. Back in January 2019, we submitted an application to Invested in Canada Infrastructure Program for the Recreate project. We had a couple of options. We focused on one option. Unfortunately, we heard back from the government in March 2020, where our application wasn't considered. The province of BC and Canada have partnered on this program again, and they just released, I think just this past month, a letter where they're committing up to $100 million for a second intake. We're going to be, our recommendation is to be working on a new grant application with a deadline for October 1st, 2020. We're seeking funding following the recommendations that were given by the government after we found out about the results. The funding that we're seeking is in the range of $8 to $10 million. The application will be for a revised concept, which you have in front of you, and I'm just going to walk you through the areas that we're planning to do work on. What you see in blue is the new building. Every single area that you see in blue is related to the aquatic programs. What you see in purple are renovated in new areas in the existing building. And what we have excluded in this application that we're proposing is what you see in gray, which means the arenas. So everything but Arena 1 and 2 will be, is what we're proposing to submit in this grant application. In order to have a project ready for construction, we need to have the schematic design that was developed by HCMA back in 2018 and 2019 completed. This design includes design development and building permit drawings. So we're still away for having a shovel-ready project, and that is our second recommendation, to develop an RFP in order to award a contract to a prime consultant and sub-consultants, including a QS to help us complete the design. So that is our second recommendation. That design is, we will have to, before we actually do that, we need to focus on a process called re-scoping, which is looking at the proposed concept and working with the quantity surveyor on looking at what the market is doing today. We had a cost report that was developed a couple of years ago, and we have to bring those or update those numbers to the market conditions that we have today in this region for this specific project. And we have, it is estimated that the detailed design, which is the design development and the building permit drawings, will cost in the range of $2 million. We have asked the QS to actually quantify, not in detail, it's more high level, how much will cost this revised concept. And they came up with a total cost of close to $44 million with escalation contingencies that includes unforeseens and others in the range of $6 million for a total project of 49.8, which is close to $80 million. I'm going to leave this slide for last. I'm just going to speak a little bit more about the timelines that we have developed for the project. So the re-scope of stage will start next month, and it will be completed in August 20th. The grant application will have to be submitted before October 1st, so we anticipate that that will be completed in September. If our recommendation gets approved, we will continue with design, detailed design, which starts in September 2020, completed next summer, fall, summer 2021. We will have to, once it's completed and we do all value engineering to make sure that the scope aligns with the budget that we have, we will tender the project. Tendering will take from June to September 2021. And if we get tenders that are within the project budget, we will start construction, or we propose to start construction fall 2021 with construction completed in September 2024. So first recommendation is a grant application to the new intake before October 1st. And the second recommendation is to engage a group of consultants to finalize the design. And that is my presentation. Dave, I'm going to pass this slide to you if you don't mind. I don't know if you have to say something about the table that has been developed on how are we going to come up with the funding.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Wolf. So as Wolf said, our phase one plan would be the aquatics and the common areas. When we repackage that all together, plus or with cost escalation, we're looking at about $50 million. So what we're looking at in terms of is our borrowing capacity, what kind of project we can fund. So currently we put away about $1.4 million every year into reserves that is intended to go towards the Recreate project. That amount of money over a 30-year period gives us the borrowing capacity of $27 million. If in 2022, when we increased that requisition by $350,000 a year, which would be in the neighborhood of about $15, $16 a home, that gives us the net borrowing capacity of about $34 million. In reserves, we'll have about another $8 million, which will give us $42 million, and assuming a conservative grant award of $7.8 million, that will give us the $49-50 million for the project. So what I'm trying to propose here to you right now is, with a increase in the requisition in 2022, we have enough funds available right now to do a $50 million project, which is the pool and the common area. So what we're trying to get from the commission is support to repackage the application for those two parts, leaving the arena out. Endorsement that we would increase the requisition for the Strathcona Gardens in 2022, and make a grant application in the amount of about $8 to $10 million. That's the feedback we've heard from the province, is that that's the type of awards they're willing to get. The other thing that they impressed upon us is that they didn't believe our timelines when we submitted. We thought we'd give them schematic design and that would reinforce our commitment to it, but they didn't think those were believable. So at this point, I'm saying, okay, look, let's engage detailed design. We have all the money we're talking about is within this $50 million package that we have here, including design. So what I'm suggesting is that we go out to RFP for detailed design. We work on that detailed design while we make the grant application. Come this spring, when the province wants to announce that, we should be concluding that, have our project tender ready, and there's going to be no ability for them to challenge our timelines, because we will legitimately have this thing ready for tender as soon as we get an award in that, at least in the $8 million, we'll have our funding available. So that's what we're hoping to, we've repackaged up for the commission to look at, whether this is something that they want staff to move forward on.
Okay, Mr. Leach, just a couple of questions. First of all, to all of staff, thank you for just another outstanding report with a great level of detail and anticipation of what we're looking for. If getting back to that last slide, can you confirm that in a previous Strathcona Gardens Commission meeting, there was discussion that the $350,000 increase in requisition in 2022 would be offset by the reduction of something else? I'm not sure if that was my recollection. And then the other thing is that, knowing that we're looking at a grant of $7.8 million, have you thought about knowing that the 10 million is sort of that magic number where they just kind of say no? Is it worth bumping that 7.8 up to, let's say, 8.3 for another 500,000, which then reduces the requisition that we need to look at?
Yeah, so a couple good questions in there. One, just for the commission, I put kind of the worst case scenario, a minimum ask. We're going to package this up so that the ask is for close to 10 million. If they say 8 to 10, I'll give them an option, at around 8.5, but looking towards push that 10 million. So for us, if we ask for 10 and they come back at 9 or 8.5 or something, we're covered financially. So this isn't, I wouldn't ask for 7.8, I'm going to ask for more. And then as far as the requisition, we had talked about that. In fact, the 5-year plan is that we will have requisition amounts regionally for the regional district that will come off the books in 2022. at about 350,000. So what I've provided here is in essence no net requisition increase from what residents are paying today.
Thank you. That was my recollection. Anything else from members of the commission?
Yes, I have something, Director Lee here.
Go ahead.
So one thing that concerns me is that in the original submissions we did, we were going to replace the pool with a new pool. And now are we going to still have the old pool? And just like, is there in that amount that we saved up for the Recreate project, is there enough money that we could redirect towards like lining the old pool or fixing the old pool?
This is new pool. This is completely new pool.
It is going to be a new pool. Okay.
Yeah. So to be clear, Commissioner Lee, this is continuing on the plan that we would be building the new pool while we are as a complete replacement. We're not going to put, as I think is referred to before, as lipstick on a pig. So
okay, so it's pool and wellness center, and then the ice stuff is left for another era.
Correct.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Yes, just a quick question, Chair.
Okay.
I'm
just going to ask commission members if they could use the chat if they just so I can prompt and keep in order. But go ahead, Commissioner Evans.
Thanks. Thank you. I just sent in a quick thing, but that's fine. Just a quick question, Chair, through to staff. Any concerns about the being able to get the project scope completed by fall 2020? Do you have any concerns that that design work, how is that going to work? Will that go out to RFP, or will you work with the same consultants that you had before?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, we'll go out to RFP for sure. I mean, I think the net, the estimate for design is about $2 million. So we'll definitely go out for RFP. And as soon as we get endorsement, we are going to be preparing that RFP for literally the next day to put that out. So we're good for RFP for design, and we're working on a application submission as we speak.
Great, and I really like this direction and concept, so thank you again very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Babchuk?
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, because it is parceled up into two pieces now, and we know that some of the feedback from the province was around not really being, too happy about doing the arena. So it's going to be a totally separate piece. But what are our options? We heard very much from the public that if we were going to do it, like, let's do it properly, do it all. Right? Not piecemeal, not lipstick on a pig, like the chair just said. So, I agree totally with moving forward with this first part, making sure that everything goes in. And I thank staff for making that a project that we can move forward with no additional requisition. But the extra piece on the other end, what does that look like?
So I'll just get feedback. I'll just let it down for a second. The arena, just as an aside, is an extra $21 million. And how that would translate to a taxpayer if we went and borrowed that $21 million would mean we would go out and have to requisition about another $350 a year. Or sorry, another $1 million, which is $45 a home. So what the arena means is $21 million or $45 a year a home to add that on.
So just for a follow-up then, after we get this piece put forward, because we want to make sure that all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed and everything is good for this piece, is it going to come back to the commission about, what those next steps would be? Are we going to wait for another grant application? Are we going to, you know, all of those discussions? Is that what we're going to have? Is that what will happen in the fall?
I think it's a great question, Councillor Babchuk, but I think what staff are proposing is the best way forward as to the next steps. And let's get through that one. And then once that application is submitted, we can continue to have discussions about, if successful, where are we going from there? Is there any further discussion? Councillor Evans, go ahead. Or Commissioner Evans.
You're muted, Colleen. And I think we're on receipt, correct?
Sorry. Yeah, so I was just going to say, we'll move receipt and I'm ready to make the motion. So.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Go
ahead, Commissioner Lee.
I just had a question about, it just seems bizarre that we spent $500,000 for Paul Fast and his group to do the conceptual drawings and designs that went for an $80 million grant application. Now we're going to spend $2 million for an $8 to $10 million application. I mean, that's a big chunk of the total value that we would get out of this grant application. It's like
so Director Lee, his
20%.
Yeah, so the detailed design will not be part of the application. It will be noted in the application that we have engaged detailed design, but that's getting the design and tender ready. That's not part of the submission, if you will. Schematic design was necessary, and we used that with our submission, but detailed design is also necessary. We'll need to do it anyways, but it's not. We're not spending $2 million, if you will, on an application.
Good.
And Mr. Leach, if I can just chime in, that this is also to address the skepticism from the ministerial staff of our ability to complete the project on time, in showing that we are stepping up and doing the progressive steps required to ensure that it is done within the time frame that they require.
Correct. And there's also something else that we've, myself and Chair Babchuk were on the phone with Municipal Affairs the other day, in that the province has this quote unquote extra $1.5 billion. And this detailed design will get us that much closer to the shovel-ready projects. And nobody can dispute you're shovel-ready when you have a tender ready to advertise. So we may backdoor some provincial stimulus money with recreation as we're pursuing that as well.
Thank you. Anything further, Commissioner Lee?
Well, if we don't get the grant this time, then, you know, we're looking at $8 to $10 million to borrow or add on to our costs. And personally, we're in the middle of, you know, some serious economic downturns, and the ability to pay, it really worries me from the taxpayer's point of view. You know, it worries me that we're going to have to carry the whole can on this. And after all this effort, you know, it just is unacceptable that the provincial government has overlooked us like this. And I just, if it happens again, well, you know, there's going to be some noise.
And I will be providing you the bullhorn, Commissioner Lee, to make some noise. If I can just share before I call the question on receipt that I did was on a meeting on Monday morning with Minister Robinson regarding the provincial recovery plan, and used the opportunity to put a plug in to Recreate as an economic driver and stimulus in the recovery, but also as the only year-round pool in the entire Strathcona Regional, public pool in the Strathcona Regional District. And that we appreciated their staff working with us for what will be the second intake. So that was plug number one. And plug number two will be, I have a meeting Friday morning with Minister Trevena, and we'll be echoing that same message. So that's just an update on the lobbying that I'm doing. So with that, I will call the question on receipt. Is anyone opposed? Hearing none, we will move to, where am I here?
Strathcona Restart Plan.
Your worship, I'll move that the commission recommend that a grant application for the Recreate Program Concept Option 1, excluding ICE services, be submitted to the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, and that an RFP process be initiated to select a prime consultant and sub-consultants to complete the design and procurement of the Recreate project.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Moving on to the item 2, Strathcona Gardens Restart Plan update. Just a motion to receive.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Leach.
I will pass it over to Courtney.
Good afternoon. Through the CEO and through the chair, I'd like to talk about the report that is on the agenda for the restart of other services at Strathcona Gardens and give the commission an update, a status of where we're at. As of this Monday, we were able to successfully put in the Rod Brendamore Arena ice to activate the Rod Brendamore Arena. And this week was the pilot of that. And it didn't come up with its share of hiccups along the way. We're still working through a lot of things to get our protocols and our systems in place with our user groups and to work within the guidelines that are established. But the good news is the ice is in, and that was a big task for everybody involved. And I certainly appreciate the work that it was put in there by all members of the staff to get that going. It was a collaborative team effort. And as the staff report alludes to, I've been down all the managers except for myself at the facility, which has been an overwhelming amount of time being spent here to make sure that we're able to activate this space. The reality of working in this space is that there is a lot more to running a facility, and currently we're operating the dry floor space on Arena 2 as its separate facility and the Rod Brendamore as its separate facility. So at the backside of the Rod Brendamore Arena, you will see a large wedding tent that has been erected in the back parking lot. That is used to stage and get people onto the ice. The dressing rooms are not currently open. So that's where we're doing our activation for all user groups, and that's where they enter the Rod Brendamore Arena. So it's in its totally different facility as the entrance to Arena 2 to get onto the dry floor space is its own separate entrance and exit out of that facility. As you recall from my previous reports, there's a certain amount of people that are allowed in each one of these facilities, and we're taking those facility and social distancing markers, and we have those on the floor, and we have that under 50 maximum per facility. The challenge that we run into is that, and you can read through the report, is our staff resourcing. Staff resourcing has been stretched, and that's just currently starting to activate 2 spaces. It is a challenge because we're recalling our full-time staff and we don't have part-time staff. And those full-time staff in our operation were almost maxed out in building custodial. And we only have one more facility maintenance worker that we could possibly get back. I did write into the report how many full-time staff that we have currently brought back, and that's 24 of our staff, full-time staff members. When in the report, you will also see that we've done some surveying of our user groups to see about the demand and what the requirements are of the user groups going into the fall, particularly for the ice arena, knowing that if all user groups were ready to hit the ice based on their COVID safety plan, what is it that we could accommodate? Being that minor hockey is our largest user group, they recognize that they will have to activate minor hockey within smaller teams, smaller groups. They have to take those hours and extend them. So they move actually from what they previously booked in this facility is just over 94 hours, that they move to 126 hours for the fall. On the Rod Brendamore, without putting any of our community recreation programs, but just accommodating our user groups and minor hockey, we are only able to accommodate about 48 hours of minor hockey hours that would be accommodated on one sheet of ice. That being said, that means that we tap into those already stretched resources to put in the Rod Brendamore Arena and activate that space for the arena. It does mean that the facilities and that we're utilizing on the dry floor space would get displaced. That means that the programs that are currently running through Island Health that were activated on that area would have to find a new place. The only place that we would have in this facility is the fitness studio above the Rod Brendamore, which is considered its own facility. So the numbers within that facility would be included on the arena as well. So then we talk about a maximum about 5 people in the fitness studio, then allowing only us to service a certain portion of those vulnerable sectors. I want to reiterate a comment that I made from the last commission meeting, that activating the Rod Brendamore Arena with ice does require us to repair the dehumidifier system. That dehumidifier repair is approximately $20,000 with approximately a 4-week turnaround if all goes well. But what I found out previously from Wolfang today is that with the new dehumidifier system, it's not just now as simple as taking the old dehumidifier system and reconnecting it. That there would be a down period, meaning that if you installed ice, you may potentially lose that ice without figuring out a backup. Wolfang is in talks with our contractors to see what a backup system would cost and if it could operate the arenas until the new dehumidifier system is up. That being said, there's a bit of risk involved in that because it is no certainty that we would keep the ice. So if you're wondering how much it generally costs to put in a sheet of ice, you're talking into the close to the $10,000 range to put in a sheet of ice to then maybe perhaps lose that sheet of ice.
Corinne, just to confirm, you said the Brendamore Arena. Are you not referring to the second?
That's exactly what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the activation of if you decide to put in the second sheet of ice into Arena 2, that needs the new dehumidifier system.
That will then impact the Brendamore ice surface.
No, it would impact the Arena 2. So Arena 2 repair, dehumidifier, just to clarify, dehumidifier needs repair. The new dehumidifier is in the works for the 4.6 million energy recovery upgrade project. That system is scheduled to be here at the end of October. So at the end of October, and it takes about 2 weeks to install. So that 2-week period of time and the crossover between having a repair of the dehumidifier system and the new dehumidifier system is about 2 weeks. Wolfang is currently trying to see with our contractor whether or not we could get the a system to maintain that ice if we were to put ice in that area. But there is a bit of risk involved, and there's no certainty, and there's no numbers currently right now about what that would mean because it's outside the project scope. They never intended to have a backup system because this was intended to be replaced before the ice went in. But COVID-19 has delayed the process.
Thank you for that clarification, Commissioner Babchuk.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I've been approached by minor hockey. I've been approached by a couple of different groups that are looking to have that extra ice wanted in. And now that other machine is not going to show up until, you know, October, and then so we're not going to have it in and ready to go until at least the middle of November. You know, I'm reconsidering the thought that we said we didn't want to fix that dehumidifier. So can you tell me then? It was originally $20,000 to fix that unit. Is that correct? And now you're saying that there could be a risk of losing $10,000 worth of ice. So it would be, you know, at the more expensive end, possibly $30,000 to get us from getting the ice in, you know, mid-August or whenever we get it in, till when the new unit comes in. Is that correct, Corinne?
And just to follow up on that, Corinne, thank you. So if I'm doing my math, I'm looking at $20,000 to do the repair on the existing dehumidifier. That would then see $11,000 in September and $13,500 in October as revenue, which would be a net gain of $4,500 to offset that.
Approximately. That's if all of those hours are secured the way they say they're going to be secured.
Correct. And then it's just a case of displacing what dry floor activities you're currently doing and where that's going to go and how we're going to be able to accommodate that. And I'll get to that later. But I would be fine working with minor hockey and or just the hockey leagues saying, look, this is what we may want to consider, but we're looking at a 2 to 3 week shutdown to then put the new dehumidifier system in, and you're going to have to adjust your season schedule to accommodate that.
Yeah, I just want to tell you that putting in ice is not an easy task. It takes weeks to build the ice. So if we lose the ice, we put it in, whenever that dehumidifier is repaired, we put it in and the staff build the ice to get it in. And then potentially if we lose the ice again at the end of October, we have to rebuild ice to put it back in. And we can't find any equipment to keep that system running temporarily while we put the new one in. So it's like losing the ice to have to do it all over again to get it back up and going. So for a potentially a month to month and a half of being, you know, open before the new dehumidifier system comes in. However, that being said, if it arrives at the end of October, like Wolfgang says it would, we would have a 2 week to get it up and going and then time to put in the ice. So you're talking about November 15-ish to actually starting a season if you wait for the new dehumidifier.
Thank you.
I also want to just comment to you is that registration for minor hockey has not happened. So there's no certainty yet on those numbers. Those numbers are the ballpark based on everybody registering from previous years with those numbers in mind. So as numbers of COVID go up in the province and as things change, their registration numbers may change and their demand might change. I don't know that, but I just want to make sure that those numbers aren't written in stone because that's what they're doing on their best estimate.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Grech. Polish up that crystal ball, and I know it's a guessing game. Commissioner Evans.
Thank you. And just a couple of quick questions through to staff. The first one, with the dehumidifier, I just want to make sure that I have this correct. So with the risk with the ice potentially going down is related to the new system being installed. Is that correct?
You need a dehumidifier to operate an arena. It takes the humidity out of the arena and takes that out and dehumidifies the facility. So it's potentially a risk. But when you don't have one, you lose the fact that you have to take that arena down. And that means the seal of the arena ice would break, and you would have to then really take the ice out and then have to put it back in.
Okay, I'm actually I'm maybe not asking this question properly, but I'm supportive of repairing the 20 or putting the 20K into repair of the dehumidifier if we move forward with that. But and for all the reasons, just balancing the demand and making sure we have the user groups and the community, you know, needs being met, for all the reasons that you stated in the report. I think that's self-evident. But where I'm just struggling a bit here is if we repair, and this would be available then in August to be installed, and it would be repaired, and then we would start building up the ice. Then is the risk to the ice in Arena 2, or is the risk to the ice in the Rob Brindamore Arena when
Arena
the
2.
new? Okay, all right, that's okay, that's great. That's what I was thinking. So just a quick question. Thank you for that clarification. Is there any value in a repaired humidifier? Is there any? Are we able to recover any of our costs when we put in the new one?
Well, we will look, once we are able to further explore the dehumidifier, we would look for levels of opportunity to maybe mitigate pricing, look at repair units, what could be faster, what could be done with more efficiency. Of course, I'm just putting those numbers out because those are the ballpark numbers that I got and received. Sure. But we would explore any opportunities to see what we could do, but that's what my understanding is right now.
Okay, and I think to your point earlier, it's difficult to know if it's going to be as subscribed as it was last year, just because there are so many unknowns. But I do think it's really important that we allow both the community to access as well as these user groups. I'm concerned about having an imbalance here, and so I'm supportive of us moving forward at this point in time with repairing that dehumidifier.
So hold on to that. I do have Commissioner Babchuk and then Lee on the speakers list.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My question is just a bit of a clarification because I'm also in favor of getting that ice up and going as fast as I can, so repairing that dehumidifier. But if I'm not wrong, there was some question about whether or not the parts and the labor and everything for that dehumidifier would be able to get us going right off the hop, that there might be some problem securing that as well. So, you know, we're back to the chicken and the egg. If we're going to repair it, but we're not going to be able to get it repaired and finished and that ice in prior to the end of September, you know, is it really worth it? So can I get clarification from staff that should we move forward with, you know, the $20,000 and getting that dehumidifier fixed, that it would be done relatively quickly?
Yeah, part of this is the shipping costs of most of the equipment's coming across the border right now. So everything that you deal with repair work to these systems cross the US border. So timelines, as I say, approximately, we end up getting some parts for the systems already here from the same supplier, and it took about 4 weeks. So that's why I look at that number. But as things change with cross-border transportation and you know, those kind of things, those are the variables that I don't have control over. We would put in those orders right away to get that work and see what we can get done. If there is a delay, I would know that information pretty quickly and could be able to report on that. But at this point, without kind of making sure that we can get that's my understanding, because we're using a US supplier.
You're muted, Director Adams.
Can't hear Director Adams.
Anything further, Commissioner Babchuk? Then I'll move to Commissioner Lee, then I have Commissioner Gunnerud.
Okay, I'm actually not in favor of potentially losing $10,000 or $20,000 just so that the hockey players don't have to wait for another month. And especially because we don't have adequate maintenance staff to install things right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're short on staff. We have no part-time staff. By the time we got the old humidifier fixed, we'd be getting the new one delivered. And I would rather just, ask them to wait, maybe put up some other programs like lacrosse or pickleball or something in Arena 2, give the kids a chance to play. But it doesn't have to be hockey. They could play another sport until we get the new humidifier in. I just think it's ridiculous to squander $20,000 of taxpayers' money because people aren't willing to wait. And wait for the good equipment to be delivered. Just sounds like a lot of palaver for no reason.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. The report does say, albeit that Ms. Garak has identified that those numbers are not fixed in stone, but the 20,000 could be offset by revenues generated from Arena 2 through September and October. But
did you include the expenses of running that arena?
The
staff payments and everything else?
I'm just going by the numbers that are in the report: 20,000 to repair and 24,500 potential revenue. I'm going to go on to Commissioner Grunnerud, and then I have Wolfgang that would like to chime in.
Thank you. So, Corinne, I would like to thank you for explaining clearly what we have right now with the dehumidifier. I just want to point out that if it is decided that the unit is to be fixed and the repair will take a month, that is the time that my contractor will need to actually do the work below the unit. So the 2 weeks for the contractor to swap the unit in October does not include the work that it is required to be done prior to that. So that will allow us to actually go and do all this work of ducting and having the roof ready, everything prepared, repair the unit, put it in place, run it, and wait for the new one to arrive. And that swap then will take 2 weeks. I just wanted to clarify that 4 weeks period, waiting for that part, and it's crucial for Nelson Roofing, my contractor, to get all the work done that is required.
I can't hear Andy.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Wolfgang, just to confirm, are you indicating that it is your recommendation that we do not proceed with repair of the dehumidifier and putting in ICE 2 and just doing it and using that time to prepare so that the installation of the new dehumidifier goes as quickly as possible when it does arrive?
Yeah, that is a good question. Thank you. There won't be additional costs by the contractor to do the work that it is required while the existing unit is being repaired. However, the contractor prefers that the humidifier, actually the existing one, nothing is being done, so they have actually time to do this properly before the new one arrives.
Thank you. Commissioner
And-
Gunnerud?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. My comment was going to be on exactly what Wolfgang talked about there. Two parts, that the contractor would be much happier working on a dry floor than working on ice in preparation of the dehumidifier work. And the second part of my question is, what funds are the dry floor bringing in at this time, or what staff has proposed over the next 2 or 3 months? And would the dry floor appease some non-arena users?
So with respects to the dry floor currently activates our vulnerable populations group with Island Health, and moving and displacing that is probably the number one thing that is displaced from moving that dry floor space out of here. Those programs are overwhelmingly in demand, and we can fit about 80% of our regular capacity into the leisure floor space. When we go up to the fitness studio space and those smaller classes that I said we would able to do in the fitness studio, we dramatically changed the Island Health contract to being able to service a smaller percentage of our clientele than we could by keeping the leisure floor space in. So that's currently the situation with our Take Heart programs and those people that are in need of those chronic disease management programs with Island Health.
And I believe Commissioner Gunnerud also asked a question related to revenue from those programs on the dry floor.
So currently our revenue comes from an Island Health contract, which is over $75,000 Island Health contract. And so we maintain that. So we're not getting in additional revenue. We're working within the preview of the contract that we have and that we can service. So as we're not able to service that agreement, then we have less of the ability to service our agreement with Island Health. Does that make sense?
That does. So if you take $75,000 over a 12-month period, and we're talking 3 months, so you're looking at $20,000 roughly?
It depends, because it depends how many people we could actually service. But right now, like I said, we'd only probably service about 45 to 50% of our Island Health contract. Okay.
And maybe the first part of my question is to Wolfgang on his previous comments, mine being that the contractor can get in there. The dry floor you can shut down for a couple hours for the contractor to go in there with a man lift and take some measurements and then out with the man lift. Whereas if you're trying to do that on ice, that time period would be extended to have any preliminary work done.
That is correct. However, whether the unit is to be repaired or not, the contractor is planning to go ahead and do the work that it is required before or below the roof. So all this work will be done before October, before the unit arrives.
But if the ice is in, that work would probably take longer than him working on a dry floor.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
There's one other, one other thing about the leisure floor space is that we've secured that leisure mechanical curtain that would actually, it's sitting in a crate that's 27 feet long on the arena floor, waiting. It takes about a week to actually install. And ideally we would put up a leisure ice curtain when at the same time as the ice is going in. So we'd put it up and then be able to put in the ice as well. So that leisure ice curtain that is part of the Capital Works project, we have the unit here. It just needs to be installed as well.
Okay, thank you. Really, really good information, good questions. And we're going around for round two. We're going back to Commissioner Lee and then Commissioner Evans.
Thank you, Chair. In my history, 27 years on the Strathcona Gardens Commission, when our roof at one point was leaking, it was leaking around those dehumidifier units and we had to repair. I'm just wondering if when you put in if you were to put in the repaired dehumidifier and then you got receipt of the new one, are you having to put it in the same spot, or do you leave them both up? Does that affect Nelson Roofing's possibility of sealing around the dehumidifiers so the roof won't leak?
Commissioner Lee, thank you, Commissioner Lee. Thank you so much for your question. So here's the answer. The units will need to be supportive, and roof work will need to happen. So all this work will be, the roof will be impacted, and all the roof will be done properly before the actual unit is in place.
Okay.
So we don't have to be worried about any leaks.
Okay, so if we repaired the old unit and then we brought in the next unit, can you just have them stay there side by side as one as a backup if one breaks down? No,
the unit will have to be removed. All the work that needs to be done below the unit will go ahead. The existing unit, once it's repaired, will go in place. And then in October, when the new unit comes, the swap will happen.
Yeah, I just think it's a lot of effort for no real gain. I mean, kids don't care if they're playing floor hockey or ice hockey. My kids could never go into ice hockey, and because of the expense of it. And they played hockey. We had the premium Linwood Road hockey team on my driveway, and they played floor hockey all the time. And my youngest son went on to play goalie for the lacrosse teams because he was such a great goalie at floor hockey. Kids don't care what sports they're playing. They just want to play. And we can find alternatives for them to play on the dry floor until we get everything in place.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Evans?
Thank you. And the new information that's been provided by staff, I'm sorry, I've been through the report a couple of times and I don't see any indication of the construction or installation phases that were required, but that's critical to the decision making for this process because it sounds like there is roof work that needs to be done in order before the equipment arrives. The safety factor that has been pointed out in terms of any prep that has to happen with not being on an ice floor. So that is impacting my decision around, again, just the safety of it. So could we just hear from staff, so if this arrives the end of October, what is the lead up time in terms of getting the roof and all the prep done? Is it a 1 month lead up time, or what is the pre-installation construction phase?
And then if I can just add on to that, once we get that, I see, just as I was talking, Commissioner Gunnerud is reading my mind, but I was looking for staff as to whether there is a recommendation after we do receipt of the report.
Right, okay.
So Commissioner Evans, with regards to the first question about the time, the duration to do the work below the roof in preparation to the swap, the contractor has confirmed that this work can be done in 3 weeks, which is, so when I ask Strathcona Gardens about what's the duration to have the part received and the unit running, and I understood that it was 4 weeks, that will be time enough to Nelson Roofing to actually do all the work below. And that will help us to minimize the impact once the new unit arrives in October.
Right.
If we don't go and if we don't do this work as soon as possible, then the construction duration in October when the unit arrives will be way longer than 2 weeks. We will be adding another 2 weeks, which would take us longer than a month to actually complete this work. So this is why it's crucial that Nelson Roofing plans and goes ahead with this work that is required now, whether the unit is repaired or not, because it will minimize the impact once the new unit arrives.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. And Mr. Leach, you have identified that the after receipt, it's option 1B. So sort of,
it looks like the
if I'm looking at the agenda, it's kind of, so we're currently on item 2, which is the restart plan, right? And then we're going to go back to 1B.
Well, I think just the options were kind of, we were, instead of putting recommendations, because we weren't sure which way to go, and I apologize for, there's so much confusion because there's many unknowns and intangibles. We put a couple options up there. So it looks like the commission is leaning towards what you can see on your screen, that the commission does not support the plan to reopen Arena 2. So that's where I had that 1B.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Grunnerud, well, so would it be appropriate then, is there any further discussion on receipt? Then I will call the question, is anyone opposed to receipt? Hearing none, then Commissioner Grunnerud, do you have a subsequent?
I do, and that could be 1B as Mr. Leach has said, or in my motion.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to say something.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lee.
I think it's a little harsh to say we don't support the plan to reopen Arena 2, but that we do support reopening Arena 2 once the roof project is complete and the new dehumidifier arrives. We do support opening Arena 2 as soon as possible after those things are done. That's what I think we should be saying, a more positive message to the public.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. I very much appreciate that. So I'm looking at something more like that the commission supports the plan to reopen Arena 2 following the procedures and protocols within the SRD service restoration policy and after the completion of the installation of the dehumidifier system.
The roof and the dehumidifier system, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do.
Do we consider that as a friendly?
Yes.
Friendly from me. Second.
Good for the seconder. Any further discussion? My only comment is Ms. Struck and Mr. Leach, the communication to the hockey community. I think this needs to be done very openly with as much information that you have been able to share with us, so that they fully understand the implications and that this is actually to their benefit to reopen quicker after the dehumidifier is finally installed and operational. And also the benefits that it is going to mean that we're going to be completing the project of putting the wall in between the leisure ice and Arena 2 in the meantime as well. The last part that I was going to make was just that the city of Campbell River is proceeding along with the Campbell River Soccer Association and the contractor. And if you're looking for a place to operate programs on an interim basis, the Rob Ron Fieldhouse may be available by October, and not too far for staff to go over and run programs on the upper portion that may have a little bit more space. Also with the church halls that are in the immediate vicinity, that may be another alternative. So with that, we have the motion, but as Commissioner Gunnerud has said, it's not really in front of us, but it's a modification of option one. Do commission members want to see that written out, or are they comfortable with the intent?
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I think we all
Comfortable with
agree.
intent?
Okay, anyone opposed? That is carried. And I, just before I call termination, I just want to say how much I appreciate.
How about the pool? A resolution on the pool as well as the re-pool, the activation of the pool, the aquatic space.
All right, that would be option 2. If Commissioner would like to move that. We received it, Commissioner Babcock. I
think there was a decision not to open the aquatic space based on the summertime schedule and what it provided. And since I brought forward more information in the staff report on the aquatic space and what the commission wanted to have as an update, so that was reported in the report for the commissioners to review. But we're looking for some direction for the fall in terms of the aquatic space. And if the status quo is still the same with the commission, we have done some public surveying of the community on what they would like to see activated in the pool spaces, and I can provide that information to you if you want to know more additional information on surveying the community. But we are looking for some direction on the aquatic space.
And Commissioner Babchuk.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Ms. Garak, for the clarity there. So if my memory bank serves me correctly, it was around the summer programming, but I'm glad this has come back at this time because I do believe that we should be starting to reanimate that space for the time when kids are starting to go back into school. So I will move that the commission supports the plan to reopen aquatic pool space following the procedures and protocols within the SRD service restoration policy for the fall session.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I think we should add on to the end of that, subject to any emergency orders that come from the province.
I think that's a given.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Motion is carried. Commissioner Lee, could you just mute your microphone?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So those have both been carried, and anything further, Mr. Leach or Ms. Garak?
Fine,
No,
thanks.
nothing.
Okay, then on behalf of the commission members and all of the users of Strathcona Gardens, we are indebted for the work and the service that all of the staff, but in particular Ms. Garak and Wolfang, have provided over the last several months. And you know, whether it's looking at the Recreate project and how we're going to do that, it's looking at how we're going to get Arena 2 in the best shape possible, how we're and also coping with COVID. I've seen some messages in the chat as to lobbying for staff hires, so we'll continue to get that message out there. But just a great job. So thank you.
Thanks.
I will entertain a motion to terminate.
Motion to terminate?
Second.
Any further discussion or comments? Thank you. Be safe. Numbers are going up, so be careful, and we'll talk to you soon.